MDMA is an insight drug, and you get an experience of self-validation, which is tremendously healing.
What we've learned is that MDMA reduces activity in the amygdala, where fear-based emotions are processed.
Now with MDMA, you have somebody who's relaxed and willing to talk, but they're completely awake, they're totally alert, their memory is sharp, and also their memory for past events is sharp. They can talk about something that happened 10 or 20 years ago accurately, and they will have complete memory for the therapy session. So that's very important.
Now, here's a little story I got to tell.
This is now episode 50. We hit the big 50, feeding something real good for the mind, spirit, and soul. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is Giants Amongst Us, where we share in that unique human experience, and this is where you're going to hear real stories that are told by real people just like yourself, the relatable ones. We're not trying to keep up with the Kardashians. I don't even know if they're still a thing right now, or any of these supposed celebrities and stars and influencers that we're supposed to be paying attention to. This is about the everyday folks who have transcended struggle, challenges, setbacks. They created new experiences. They took responsibility and accountability for their livelihood, for their reality. And what I hope happens from sharing these stories is that they might fall on the ears of somebody who is in a dark place, somebody who feels as if they're not worthy. Their life has no meaning. Their life has no value. I keep going back to the same thing. I can't seem to change things. When will it get better? This world is out of control. The sky is falling. Political unrest. Gas prices are too high. People are tearing each other apart online and in the streets. My God. Is there any hope? What's the point? Well, dare I say, for this brief session, forget about all that. There's a million things happening with the access of information. We can overload ourselves with all of this information. Some things are completely out of our control. They're meant to wind us up. They're meant to destroy our ability to think rationally. They're targeting those trigger points to get a reaction, to cause fear. People can't think straight when they're in fear. Fear kills confidence. It kills action. It paralyzes. And so let's just shut all that off for right now and realize that there are some things, in fact, that are in our control. We can control our emotions. We can control our mind, our thoughts, the vibrational energies that come from active thought, from creative thought, which can change our emotional state, deep down our spiritual state, and create some better patterns in our life, some better decisions in our life, some better actions in our life. And regardless of what's going on around you, inside of you, you can thrive, you can evolve, you can grow, you can actualize some magnificent human potential, exploring human nature and embracing your humanity, not letting them take that away from you, and rising to the occasion. Lofty dreams, lofty goals, and creating, regardless of what it looks like. If things look grim, dare I say, creating your piece of heaven right here. So that was a bit of a rant. I just pictured somebody on top of a hill or on their holy horse screaming out to the masses, "It's gonna be okay." But I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are in good spirits. If this is your first time listening to the show, you know you can go back and listen to past stories, past guests. There's even some episodes where I just spill the real solo without anybody sitting across from me or on the other line. But the heart of this show, the heartbeat of it, the essence of it is me connecting with people from all walks of life to share their stories. So you can find past stories and past guests at giantsamongustus.org. And also there you're going to find updates on what's going on with the show, new episodes that are just around the corner, that are soon to be published, and along with blogs, topics, subject matters, things that interest me, I write about, I share, and maybe they find a place with you. And another thing you can do on the website is you can leave a voice note if you'd like to. Let us know where you're listening from, how you're listening to the show. And another thing, just to get it out the way, take care of this housekeeping, and then we'll get on with the business. If this is something you appreciate, the stories that are being shared, if they've resonated with you, they've encouraged or inspired you in any type of way, if you appreciate what we're doing over here, one thing you can do free of charge to support the show, it's not going to cost you a dime, maybe just a few minutes of your time, is you can visit one of the links that you'll find in the show notes. And what you can do is you can write a review, a few lines, and just share your thoughts on the show, something you like about it, something you don't like about it, ways that we can improve it. And aside from that, you can give it a star, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, whatever you feel is fitting. And this is going to do 2 things. One thing is going to help us on the back end continue to create a wonderful overall listening experience. And it'll also help these stories fall on the ears of new listeners. I guess this has something to do with how the way the algorithm perceives the show and sees that there's interaction or there's engagement, and it just puts it a little higher in the search engines. Something like that. I don't really know the dynamics of it too much, but I do enjoy the critique. I do enjoy the kind words and the warm words. I do enjoy all of it, all around. I don't take offense to any of it. The only way I'm going to learn, or we're going to learn, is if we're open to criticism, we're open to opinion and judgment, but also you have to be mindful of where it comes from. If it's coming from an honest place, then you go ahead and consider it. But if there's just people just hating to hate, then you have to deal with that accordingly. I feel like I carried this intro long enough, so let's get into it. And just to warn anybody, there's going to be some sensitive topics discussed. So if that's something that is going to disturb you in any way, I'm talking about sexual abuse, then you might want to just skip this episode and catch us on the rebound. But to everybody else, today, Alex joins us, and he's got a story to tell.
Once I started doing psychedelics, I started having concerns about this teacher that I had had and spent a lot of time with, and who gave me private piano lessons. And then during an early session, I was working with a shaman in Austin, and she asked me, "What do you think is wrong with your pelvis?" And I told her I had been sexually abused. And then all the memories and kind of the feelings of him, and frankly, the taste memory and the muscle memory of him started coming back really quickly. And a lot of repressed memories of things he said or things I did, or getting into his car, things like that. I really struggled for a long time afterwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, this is Alex and his story. Here we are. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. This is Giants Amongst Us, where we share in the unique human experience. And I'm pleased to introduce today's guest. Today I have Alex with us, and he was kind enough, he was game enough to take some time out of his day and spend with us. So Alex, thank you so much for making some room for us today. You could have been anywhere right now. You could have been doing anything, but here we are having a little sit down and sharing some conversation. So welcome. How is it going?
It's going great. Excited to be here. It's a nice Friday in Austin, Texas, and excited for the weekend.
Cool. Yeah. Right on, man. That's good to hear. Just for starters, to break it in, I like to get a overview or some background of my guests, where they come from, how it was growing up. So if you mind, my good friend, you mind sharing a bit of that with us?
Sure. So I recently wrote a book called Trauma and Ecstasy, and it's about using psychedelics to heal from childhood sexual abuse. And so I'd say my story really starts when I was 23 years old. I was biking around the Netherlands, and I started having really bad pelvic floor problems after I got off the bike, which is really not an area you want to be having problems for sure. And so it felt like almost like a muscle tension, like a clenching, clenched fist in my sort of pelvic floor area. And I really had no idea what was causing it at the time. So I started seeing all these doctors and physical therapists, and they really had no idea what was going on. They kind of insinuated it was all in my head, or I was some sort of head case. And they did all these invasive procedures like Botox and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. And I really had no idea what was causing it, but I was having trouble going to the bathroom. I was having trouble with erectile function, and it was really kind of messing up my life. I wasn't sleeping very well because I was having to wake up to go to the bathroom all the time, and all this stuff. And so this went on for several years. I saw doctors all around the country. I saw pelvic floor physical therapists all around the country. I saw a bunch of acupuncturists. I tried to meditate. I tried to go to the sauna. I tried to journal. I tried to swim. I tried to go on vacation. Nothing was really working, and this tension, this clenching was still there 24/7. So eventually I started trying MDMA therapy after I heard about it from Tim Ferris, the entrepreneur. And at the time, I thought I was just anxious. Like I wanted to try MDMA because I had anxiety that I wanted to work through. But it turned out once I started doing MDMA, it pretty quickly became apparent that I'd been badly sexually abused by a teacher when I was very small. And that was sort of the root of my pelvic floor issues. And so I think once I realized that, I started doing the therapeutic work and the psychedelic work and all of that around my abuse and trying to heal from it. So I know that was a lot, so I'll take a breath there. But that's sort of what my book is about, my healing journey and sort of how I managed to, work through all this stuff. And that's what my message is.
Wow. Like I told you before we started recording, I read a bit of the backstory beforehand. I didn't really know that the depths of it, but I'm curious with the abuse and the memories. Was any of that relevant or come to the surface prior to, or this was something that after you started doing the therapy where these memories started to resurface and started to come to light?
Yeah, I would say before psychedelics, I really had no idea. I think if you'd asked me in my heart of hearts, like was something wrong, I would have said yeah. But beyond that, it just like didn't compute. But once I started doing psychedelics, I started having concerns about this teacher that I had and spent a lot of time with, and who gave me private piano lessons. And then during an early session, I was working with a shaman in Austin, and she asked me, "What do you think is wrong with your pelvis?" And I told her I had been sexually abused. Or what does your pelvis say was happened to you? So things like that. And then all the memories and kind of the feelings of him and frankly, the taste memory and the muscle memory of him started coming back really quickly. And a lot of, repressed memories of things he'd said or things I did or getting into his car, things like that, all started flooding back at once. So it was a very disorienting day. I really struggled for a long time afterwards, but in doing the kind of therapeutic work and the psychedelic work and kind of integration, I've been able to sort of work through my abuse for the most part.
Yeah, MDMA. I'm not too familiar with that one. Can you explain a little bit of how that process goes?
Sure. So MDMA is kind of an empathogen. It's not a classic psychedelic, and it's sort of a heart-opening drug. But I think so. What happens is, in the right set and setting, your brain can kind of feel safe enough to sort of let go of bring traumatic memories up to the surface, and then you can sort of let go of them somatically, like through shaking or things like that, and just also sort of reprocess them in your brain because of the way the drug works. So it sort of makes your brain feel safe. It sort of lowers the amygdala, the kind of fear center of your brain, and also engages with the hippocampus, which is sort of the memory center of your brain. And so those two things together, by engaging those at the same time, you can both bring stuff up that you maybe hadn't thought about in a while or have been repressed. So also in sort of by lowering the fear center, you can feel safe to your brain. Because I think what's happens in normal life is the brain is always trying to protect us, from traumatic memories or things where it felt hurt or unsafe. And so by kind of almost tricking the brain to feel like it's safe, you can sort of bring these traumatic memories up to the surface in a calm and almost safe way, and then you can let go of them.
Okay. Is that MDMA? Is that the chemicals that are found in ecstasy?
Yes, the ecstasy and MDMA are the same.
Is that right? Okay, well then I'm lying because once upon a time I did have a big drug problem. And I know, like you mentioned, setting, that's everything. And so during the time, of course, when you're using and abusing, you're just doing this in parties, you're doing this to feel good, and you don't have any intention to get to your subconscious or get to the inner man or the inner person or anything like that. So I mean, this was a different kind of environment and a different kind of mindset with that. But the first session that you had, did you already experience a breakthrough or was it a process?
Yeah, I would say the first session was mostly a process, just kind of experiencing the medicine. I actually didn't come up that I was sure I'd been abused till the fourth MDMA session, so it took a little bit of time. But yeah, I think it was just very I really saw how anxious I was in day to day life, and sort of dealt with some of the self loathing I've been experiencing for a long time. But really, until I started working on my abuse, in retrospect, that's when I really started doing the emotional work and healing work around my childhood trauma. So it definitely took a little bit of time to sort of get used to the medicine and sort of start processing what happened to me.
Yeah, I know integration is key with all of the psychedelic, the research studies, and then also just the fact with people using it. So you have like you have an environment where it's safe, and like you said, you feel that you're in good hands and you can go ahead and go through with the experience. But for the session, the MDMA session that you go through, so they give you a dosage. Do they measure out what your dose limit is or what the right dose is? Like how do they figure that part out that first time, what kind of dose they're going to give you, and then, I guess gauge it from there?
Yeah, the standard mass protocol is like 125 milligrams with an optional 75 milligram booster that I usually take whenever I do take MDMA. So it's 200 milligrams in total. I think it can be neurotoxic at higher doses than that, or if you take it super regularly. But I try to take MDMA only every couple of months and at that dose level, never more than that.
And then so you go through, because usually, if I'm not mistaken, that's about what, 3-4 hours, right? That you're
Yeah, I think the peak is about 90 minutes, but it really goes about 4 or 5 hours. Yeah, depending.
So you take it in pill form, and then from there, you
Yeah.
go through the emotions. You let what comes to the surface come to the surface and express itself the way it expresses itself somatically.
Absolutely, that's right. Whether that's screams or crying or body shaking or sort of trembling, um, all that stuff is literally your brain and sort of your body letting go of bad energy, toxic energy. So I think what happens with childhood trauma is, particular, is kids can't really process trauma very well. So what they do is they kind of just push it all down to kind of your subconscious, and from there it can kind of almost get stuck in there. And that's what a lot of the IBS or irritable bowel and kind of
Hmm.
autoimmune diseases are stem from. A lot of the chronic muscle tension people have, like in their back or their neck or their shoulders. The anger issues people have, things of that nature. And so I think by letting that stuff come to the surface, you can literally let it go, almost like you would be taking a dump or throwing up, and then you can kind of move on without it, like, because it's just toxic. And I think that's what I've really been able to do with my sort of the bad energy that got stuck in me from my childhood abuse.
And the majority of that concentration was right in your pelvis area.
Yeah, and I'm still working through stuff now. I'm still having some body issues, but I know where it stems from, and I'm continuing to kind of move through it. But I've moved through a lot. I've shaken for literally 40-hour work weeks already of just somatic shaking, literally like letting go
Wow.
of that sort of trauma.
I was reading, like you said, they have studies. They're doing a lot of research on it now. Thank goodness, because there has been at one time it was used even for marriage counseling, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a real heart opener, and you can really feel comfortable saying things to people that you might not feel that safety before. Not in the sense that like you would tell them someone that they're like fat. It's like sort of a loving thing, but just opening up and feeling more vulnerable and less guarded kind of helps strengthen relationships. I feel like, whether that's romantically or even with friends. I've never taken it in that context, but I know it can be really effective.
Right. Now you had from the first session that you had to now, you said you're still doing this about once a month or so?
Once every couple of months, I'm doing psychedelic therapy, whether that's MDMA therapy or psilocybin or ayahuasca. So those are all different compounds I've worked with, and they've all really helped me in different ways.
Man, it seems like nowadays there really is a psychedelic revolution, because at one point it was just people were, well, it was a big stigma behind it. This was back in the 70s and in the 80s when you had this movement that was going on and it was misused. They right away classified it as they classified it as
Schedule 1.
yeah, there you go. And pretty much written it off. But it seems like nowadays that there's a lot of people that are finding a therapy with psilocybin, with MDMA, with ayahuasca, with even a different assortment of plant medicines. And what would you have to say about people that are still on the fence about it for the simple fact of the safety issues?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely not for everyone, and they definitely can be very unsafe if you're taking them in the wrong context. Unfortunately, I mean, I've had, I had a friend's brother, unfortunately, pass away because he was sort of taking LSD in like a recreational way, and it didn't work out. And so I do think they are very strong. I really caution anyone, if you are going to take them, to do them in a safe setting with safe people. And certainly don't be driving a car or being in a place where damage could happen. So these tools are no joke, and they're not for everyone. But I think in the right setting and context, they can really help people.
No, 100%. I agree. I agree. I was able to experience plant medicine. It was Syrian rule, and that was a totally different experience from any other drug in my life I've taken. And I'm not gonna say that that's a drug, because that's more of a plant medicine. But yeah, the MDMA, is this something that you see? Is it becoming more and more accepted? Where in your area, at least?
Yeah, I would say in Austin, sort of one of the ground zero places for psychedelic medicine. It's in some good ways and some not so good ways. It seems like everybody and their mother is like doing ketamine now. Or like they're West Coast sober and that they don't drink alcohol, but they take mushrooms like every day to go on parties. So I don't know. Like I don't really do these compounds recreationally. For me, they've been really transformative in kind of healing childhood trauma. But there's all sorts of people doing all sorts of things with plant medicines these days. And I try not to pass judgment on that. It's not really my place, but that's not how I sort of try to use them.
Yeah, you're going about it in a more respectable way. I mean, this is dealing with your traumatic issues in your life and helping you heal, recover, move forward, and just become a more well balanced human being. So, with the integration part of it, is it something like, say, after you go through with your session, when your body does what it does, when you're somatically going through these convulsions, these sweats, these tremors, however it is that your body is moving and releasing this energy, afterwards with the therapist, is this something that you talk about, you journal, or what goes on after the process of just your body physically releasing and purging itself?
Absolutely. And there's been a ton of different processes I've had during my integration kind of period. I've worked with a shaman to do energy breath work. I do journal, try to journal most days. I try to go on walks and kind of get a meditative sense that way. I was part of a men's group for men who had been sexually abused in the Austin area. I saw a body worker for a while to try to get back in touch with my body. I did EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and that helped me for a while. And then I see an intimacy coach to kind of help me get back in touch with that side of myself. So I think all those things together have consisted of an integration practice. And I haven't done all of those together at once, but over the last couple of years, I've tried all of them, and I think they've all been effective for me in different ways. I also go to the sauna a lot of days. What else do I do? I try to eat well. I try to get enough sleep. Things like that.
Wow. Yeah, you're really making an effort. This is very, very encouraging to hear. We just met right now, but it's always great to hear when people have been through different things, the way that life shakes us up, and to be able to come out a better person. And you found your medicine in the psychedelic arena. Just to go back beforehand, you said this all happened, or these memories surfaced, that you said in your 20s, early 20s.
I would say I was almost 28 when it really became clear that I'd been sexually
Yeah.
abused. But I started having pelvic floor problems at 23.
And how about even before that? Like, now this was something that it was a blind spot for you. It was, like you said, the brain has a way of putting up a wall or a defense mechanism. We suppress things, and it could be subconsciously or consciously, but just to protect itself and to be able to in survival mode, to be able to function and to get by. So with you, beforehand, were you experiencing any emotional, psychological, baggage or just issues throughout that time, and you just kind of didn't know where it was coming from, say anxiety, fear, depression, that type of thing?
Absolutely. One thing I think, even when memories are repressed, like they might have been for me, I think there are always signs of this sort of thing. It doesn't tend to just come out of isolation. Like, I have a loving
Yeah.
family and 4 kids and like have a great job and incredible life. And then I realized I was like serially sexually abused. That tends to not happen very much. So I think for me, I had a ton of issues around sex. I never really had a girlfriend. I hadn't had very much sex. I had an anger issue. I didn't have a ton of friends. I struggled with depression, a lot of my life. I'd been in and out of therapy for a long time before I started doing psychedelics. I just kind of complaining that I wasn't happy and felt off. And so I look at all that stuff, and there were so many signs of abuse. The way, maybe not quite as bad as it ended up being, but there was a lot of like almost circumstantial evidence that something had happened. Yeah.
Even with everything that you were trying, you said you tried, there was a laundry list of things that you tried, and just nothing was really putting the pieces together the way that the MDMA session did. All of the
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think psychedelics are the strongest tools available to heal trauma. And so I really think I needed those to sort of get to the bottom of it. Talk therapy is great, but I think talk therapy alone is generally not enough for certainly like big T trauma, like, rape or physical abuse or other things of that nature. So no, I really had not gotten very far until I started doing plant medicine.
That could be frustrating though, right? I mean, you're trying, it seems like everything under the sun and nothing is working out. And there was that holy grail. Now, how did you say you came across that again? Can you
Yeah, so I listened. I'm a fan of Tim Ferris.
Tim Ferriss, there you go.
Tim Ferris had also unfortunately been sexually abused. I didn't make the connection at that time, but I thought it was really sad what happened to him at the time. And he said that MDMA and psilocybin really helped him. So I sort of took note of that. And then another writer, Tucker Max, had sort of written about his own MDMA experiences, and he helped me find a guide, my first guide in New York City, and it sort of jumped to the races from there.
That's pretty damn awesome that even well, I don't want to say desperate times, but in a way it is. If you're trying to get well, you're trying to be well, and you feel like you have all these things going on with you, like psychologically, emotionally, you can't get you. There's the intimacy is lacking, and there's just even with the physical pains and the ailments and things that are going awry, but with the still seeking and desperately, trying to find something that can at least put you back together again or help you to start working towards healing what's been done. So you eventually, after the sessions, after your healing process and dealing with the events that happen, getting well, working towards getting well, working towards your recovery, working towards healing, you eventually put this. How did this book come about? What was the process like for that?
Sure. Yeah, I was doing work with my shaman, and she's like, you know what, you could write a really good book about this. And it just sort of happened pretty quickly about that. And at the same time, I'd actually gone public against my abuser. I wrote an open letter to my school system naming him. And action was not taken. So particularly at the beginning, I was really motivated to get the book out to potentially hold him accountable. Again, we'll see what happens, if anything there. So far, nothing appears to have happened since the book came out. But that was one of the reasons to put out the book, to kind of help me process all the stuff that happened to me, to help others who have been through abuse, or clinicians that are curious about psychedelics or things like that. And then to have kind of just a written record for, family in the future, if I have any kids, things like that. So I think all those together was sort of the impetus for me to write this book.
Could I ask you the reason behind them not wanting to take action? Is it because of the fact that it happened within a certain time frame and that this can be false memories?
Well, I went to the police first, and the police asked him if he did it, and he said no. And so that was sort of the extent of their investigation. I have all the tapes. I think they interviewed him for about half an hour at his house. And that was it there. And then I was getting pretty frustrated that it was clear they were going to close the case. So I wrote an open letter to my school system in the hopes of trying to get him out of his school. And the school system wrote a letter back, because I sent it to like 30 people, including parents of the school and things like that. And they wrote an open letter back to everybody saying that, the police have now closed the case. It's been dismissed. There's no evidence. So, we're going to keep him. And then he won an award for that school year. So, So, it's definitely been tough. We'll see what happens again, if anything. But I'm satisfied that I wrote that letter. I don't have any regrets about it. I'm satisfied with the book. We'll see what happens.
So to this day, he's still teaching.
It certainly appears that way. His name is listed on the school website still as a current faculty member. So I look every month or two. He's still there. I haven't heard anything to indicate that he's not there anymore. So I don't know, but my book's not going anywhere. So again, he's a pretty young guy. I think he's like 48 years old. So who knows?
Yep, you did your part, right? The main thing is to find that healing, to be able to free yourself from the clutches of what somebody
Absolutely
at one time did, but to not be in that prison anymore, to where you're bound by somebody else's actions where through no fault of your own. And I'm sure in a way that this book, writing your book and expressing the trauma and just fleshing out your experience and your road to recovery and what helped you along the way, was that something that was bringing up a lot of those old memories? And was it emotional to write it?
It was very difficult. I got sick several times. I wasn't sleeping very well for like months. I was tired all the time. It was a pretty miserable experience. That's why I'm probably never going to write another book. But I did write one. I think the book's pretty good. I put my best foot forward there. So I'm proud of my output. But it was very tough. I wouldn't. I don't think I could ever write something like that again. So one and done here.
Revisiting those memories, you had to go back to the pit of hell, so to speak, to bring up all that and to put it out on paper. I mean, for one, you were naming names, right? You were putting a name to the perpetrator, and then you were also talking about your experience. And then also, is this talking about your healing process and what you found helpful throughout this ordeal?
So I actually clarify, I did name him in an open letter I wrote to my school system, but in the book I used a pseudonym that is close to his name, but not his name. I want to name him in the book originally because I know it's him. Like, I don't have any doubt at all. I felt like the name wouldn't mean anything to people that weren't in my school system, and people that went to school with me all know who this is. So I didn't think it would sort of do that much, if that makes sense. But I'm happy to name him in private for anyone that's curious. But in terms of the healing, I really tried to emphasize integration, healing trauma, and sort of almost put together a field guide of how someone would try to heal from childhood sexual abuse or other forms of deep trauma from their childhoods. And so that would be through breath energy work, like I said, EMDR, psychedelic medicine, kind of body intimacy work, and just journaling and things of that nature.
I find that through hearing, I'm not going to put everybody's experience in the same can, but people that have been abused physically, sexually, emotionally, you hear often that even though it's no faults of their own, they still carry a guilt that they could have did something different. There could have been some kind of boundaries that were put up. So that, I don't know if you experienced that, even though these were some of the memories that you said they didn't come to surface till later on in life. But did you ever go through that during your healing process of the victimhood of blaming yourself in some sort of way?
Absolutely. I still struggle with self-esteem and self-love and sort of self-loathing at times. And I think that was really hard at the beginning of my healing journey. And that's been something I've been working through my whole life. So, of course, I think anytime, children are very egocentric, right? And the idea that somebody would be doing something like that to you, it's sort of natural, I think, as a kid to assume it's because of something defective with you or something wrong with you, or this must be happening because I'm a bad person or ugly or whatever. And I think he really reinforced that with some of the language he used, telling me I was a freak or whatever. So I think, predators do that to sort of get control over the victims. And, he's very good at what he does. And, he's, I think, a seasoned predator. So I think it was unfortunate to run into him for sure. But, I also think it's given me some gifts. And it's really, I tried to use that pain and turn it into art with this book.
Yeah, right on. Yes, sometimes you hear that often, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It builds character,
Absolutely.
or, especially with just the fire, how fire just refines and purifies and forms part of the alchemical process to form certain elements and stones and bring out the richness in it. So definitely you turn a negative into a positive in some sort of way, and giving a gift back to people who may be going through what you have been through, or currently just struggling with certain things, self-esteem, self-love. And what's helped you right now with your self-worth and to get some of that back?
Yeah, I think psychedelic medicine has really showed me that there's nothing defective about me, and that I actually have a lot to offer the world. And I'm a pretty nice guy, and I got a lot of energy and some positive things to say. So I think, yeah, it's sort of reinforced. I don't think having low self esteem is inherent to being human. I think it tends to happen because of it's drilled into people early on, whether that's by a parent or and sometimes not even on purpose. Like I look at my dad. I think
Yeah.
he was pretty tough on me, and I think that really sort of rubbed off on me in certain ways, and frankly, in a negative way. But I also think he just sort of had some of his own issues, and he sort of projected them onto me. Unfortunately, everybody's got their own battles and their own struggles, and I think I just wanted to try to work through my abuse the best I possibly could to sort of maybe break that cycle of trauma, so to speak.
That's awesome. Can't put myself in anybody's situation, especially when you're going through abuse. There's some people that they find it hard to have any motivation or drive to want to come out of that dark pit. And for you, it seemed like you were determined, you were fixated, you were obsessed, if you say, in a way, because you were trying so many different things. And I just want to figure this thing out. I just want to get well. I want to sort out the madness. I really, I respect that. It's great to hear that. And I'm curious, just to take it back a little bit, because you mentioned a shaman. Was it one shaman in particular? Because did you have more than one session with different shamans, or were you in the jungles when you experienced this ayahuasca, or how did?
I found a shaman in Austin that I really connected with.
Okay.
I think she's a shaman more for marketing purposes. I think healer is maybe a better word at this point. But yeah, I did a bunch of sessions with her of different compounds, and she really has helped me a lot in my journey. And I'm grateful to have her. And I would say the deepest healing work has been done with her. So I really appreciate it. And yeah, she's featured heavily in my book. So.
You have a lot of people that have contributed to your whole overall healing process.
Yeah, I think I've been lucky. I had some financial support from parents, and I was pretty motivated. And so I've been able to work with a lot of different practitioners, and they've helped me in different ways.
Right. Yeah. That, like I told you beforehand, that's how I was able to get in contact with you, was through your mother. She was outreaching, and
Yeah.
she was doing some real good marketing, and sharing a bit of your backstory, and that was intriguing, and that was interesting, just because of what I read that you had went through, and for you to be able to come out a better man, a stronger man, a brighter man, and just shining that light, and fighting a good fight and doing a good deed. So that how has the response been for the book so far? Have you gotten any feedback from it?
Yeah, I mean the reviews have been really good. I have like 150 reviews on Amazon.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and a 4.8 rating, but I'm always trying to get more. So if any the book's $4.99 on Kindle. So not a huge lift for most people, but I really appreciate any interest, and I'm happy to answer any questions about it. It's called Trauma and Ecstasy: How Psychedelics Made My Life Worth Living. And so, my goal is to kind of spread my message around healing and trauma and abuse and things of that nature. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with podcasts like this one, and all the speaking and sort of advocacy that I'm undertaking this year.
When was the initial publishing? Was it this year? Has it
It came out in December
December?
of 2024.
Okay. Wow. And you already got 140 something reviews.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to 1,000 in the next couple of years. We'll see if that happens.
That's
Yeah.
right. Shoot for the stars. Why not? As you should. And you're also doing speaking engagements. Like, are you doing those in person?
No, I'm mostly doing when I say speaking, I mean podcasts like this one, or
No. Right.
or like I've spoken to the Colorado Psychedelic Society, but no like paid speaking. I don't know if I even want to do that, and nobody's offered so far. So maybe someday.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's like with this right here, the good thing about technology, for all the bad things sometimes I say about it, like, my goodness, we're addicted to the social media and everything, but it also gives you an international global reach to reach people. Like, I'm located in Germany, we're speaking, but I have listeners also in the States. I have listeners in Europe, in different parts of the world. So, I mean, you have an overall reach with this technology. So it's good that you're out here and you're spreading the word of what helped for you. It seems that you have a really, the proof is in the pudding. You know, it's worked for you and it's worked for thousands of other people. Just the healing from abuse, from PTSD. We're talking about veterans. We're talking about children and men, women who have been sexually abused, physically abused. But the psychedelic community has really blossomed, and it seems that more and more people are becoming open to the idea of maybe giving it a try. But you need to give it like you have to, like you mentioned, said, you have to be respectful when you come into this. And if you're in a professional environment, I think that they can help set up that right and sacred space for you to get some type of healing work done for whatever it is that you're dealing with.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And, I think unfortunately, there are some horror stories out there. And I do think, like there's a lot of crazy shamans around and a lot of bad retreat centers that don't take very good care of people or don't really know what to do. And so, people naturally glom onto horror stories about psychedelics because for a variety of reasons, I think. But, I do think overall they can have a really positive net effect on the world. And they certainly had a positive effect on my life.
You have to do your due diligence, your research. Now, did you happen to just the first one that you came across? That was the one that hit the sweet spot for you, or you were doing some research and getting reviews and trying to figure out where you're going to fit best or what's going to be best for you?
Well, I knew I wanted to start with MDMA therapy because that's sort of the gentlest one. I'm really happy I did. I think if I'd started with ayahuasca or even psilocybin, it would have been very difficult for me and it would have set me back. And I didn't know if I'd be here right now because they are very strong tools and I
Yeah.
wasn't ready for those. But I'm really happy I started with MDMA. And I did work with someone early on that wasn't a good fit and it did really set me back. And after that, I found the shaman that I mentioned earlier and we had a really good partnership for a long time.
Okay. Alex, I have some, I'm not too sure if you can give your take on it, but what would you have to say about somebody who, say for instance, would be interested in exploring this, but they're afraid of how would I put it? They're afraid of the idea of maybe traumatizing themselves and setting them back, feeling as if it's going to do more harm than good because of the fact of it opening up a whole can of worms that might be just too overwhelming for them to deal with.
Yeah, so I think psychedelics can definitely make things worse before they get better, and that was certainly my experience because all the emotions and feelings and memories I pushed down to the bottom of me, like, started coming back up, right, with the psychedelic medicine because they pushed those to the surface, and so things did get worse, and I really needed the support. So I recommend anyone in going on psychedelic therapy for trauma to make sure you have a good support system. Make sure you have friends or family, and if not those, like a trained practitioner that you're working with already that can sort of help you work through what might come up for you. Because I think doing this without any support, pre-existing support, and without any pre-existing therapeutic relationship, that could be really difficult and really damaging. So that's what I recommend for anyone that was trying to engage in psychedelic medicine to heal trauma.
Yeah, I think that's probably, I'm not going to speak for everybody's experience, but I think that could be the case sometimes when people have these horror stories or these horror experiences. It could be just the mindset that they're going into it with. They don't feel safe, so then that's reflecting in their experience and the environment. If you do have, like you said, if you're doing your research and you have, that's the whole point of some of these ceremonies and rituals. They're setting up that sacred space for you so that that proper containment is set and everything is going to you're going to get from it what you need to get from it at that point in time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you might not get the trip you want, but you usually get the trip you need.
Yeah. And like some people say, all medicine doesn't always taste the best, so it's going to hurt in the beginning.
Sure.
And
That's right.
the physical, do you still go through with that? Do you experience your body releasing still a lot of the negative energy and a lot of tension or the stresses that were deep seated in your tissues and in your physical body?
I am still having some lingering physical symptoms, and that's why I'm continuing to do psychedelics every couple of months. But things have gotten a lot better, and I would say, I think the lingering physical symptoms are a testament to how much I've been through, unfortunately, and how much trauma there was, and how bad the abuse was. So, I think I'm mostly towards the end, but there still has not been that final layer of sort of like an ego death or ego reset, maybe. And I think once that happens, the physical issues, I'll be able to let them go, and they'll sort of fade away.
Yeah. I don't want to pick at that scab too much longer, but
No worries.
yeah, but do you have an idea of how long the abuse went on for? Was it months, years?
Yeah, it was. I think it was about 18 months from start to finish. Maybe a little less than that, but over a year for
Wow.
sure.
Man, okay, yeah, no, that is something that you're not going to get rid of it overnight, and sometimes for some of us, it's going to be a lifelong journey. But the fact is that you are getting better, and you are seeing results, and you are feeling a completely different person than you were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah, I agree, and I would have been toast without psychedelics. It would have been really rough. So I really think these compounds have changed my life, and again, not them alone, but they've sort of opened the door for like comprehensive and dramatic change. And I think that's why I want to spread the message. And I look at where I was before and where I am now, and I feel like it's a night and day difference. That's
Yeah,
not to say I'm perfect or like things are going amazing now, but there's been dramatic improvement.
that's where it counts. That's where it counts. That you're able to live, function, and enjoy your life as opposed to how it was before.
I'm getting there for sure.
You're getting there, right, man. Alex, it's really encouraging to hear, and I think this is a message that is going to be impactful for a lot of people that are in your situation because we're not everybody's experience is different. That's what this podcast is about. It's just sharing in everybody's unique human experience, but how they were able to get through their struggles, their challenges, and it's just encouraging to hear what you had went through and that you're a sharp man. You have your head on, you had your head on tight, and you
Thank you.
seem that you have your heart set in the right place, and you seem that you're I don't know how you were beforehand, but you seem well grounded, and like you said, it's a big testament to the psychedelic journey that you embarked on, and the good message that you're spreading right now, and the book that you wrote. And what do you have lined up for you, or any plans or goals you have moving forward?
Yeah, so it's funny you ask. I'm sort of in the midst of an existential crisis right now.
Mm,
I think the book's come out for a couple months. I did some traveling, and now it's sort of what am I going to do now, like with my life. So I'm trying to figure out jobs. Like what am I going to do for work? How's that all going to go down? So I think one thing I thought is the book would help me get a job more than it has. And I don't think in the corporate world, having a book is really that meaningful. In fact, I think in some ways, a book about psychedelics might be a negative signal to certain corporations or certain bigger companies. So I think I want to do something entrepreneurial eventually. But right now, I don't quite have the emotional bandwidth to start something new. So I'm trying to figure that out right now with kind of a therapist and kind of different people and journaling. And so I'm definitely at an inflection point for sure.
yeah. But the main thing, I mean, what you've been dealing with is that's just the healing, the spiritual component of it, the emotional component of it, the inner work that you've been doing, and from the inside out, that's how things work. And so you change the inside, and for sure you can start creating new realities in the outside. So you're on the right path.
Yeah, that's certainly my intention and my my hope. But it's every day is a new process. So even this week, like I was, do I want to, get an entry level sales job? Like I've been applying for those. I'm trying to figure it out. So who knows?
Mm. So you mentioned some traveling. Where did you go in any places specific? Did you keep it in Texas, or you went abroad a little bit?
I went to Argentina and Chile over Christmas with my mom and my sister, and went to Patagonia. I went to
Okay.
India for a wedding for a couple weeks, and then I went to Costa Rica with a psychedelic coaching class. So all that in about a two and a half month span. So it was a lot of travel.
Globe trotting, that's right.
Yeah,
And what'd you think
but
of what'd you think of India?
India was great. I'd actually been once before, but definitely seeing different parts of the country. It's so diverse and so each region feels like almost like its own country. And so I think, and it's really one of the richest experiences in spirituality and in kind of warmth from the people and the food and the colors and really an awesome trip. I highly recommend any Westerners if they're trying to get a unique, exotic experience. That India could be a really good fit.
In every one of those countries you mentioned, was it the first time for each, or you've been to a few before?
I'd been to India before. I'd not been to Costa Rica, Chile, or Argentina before.
Oh, okay. Wow, man. Yeah, I haven't that's a place I haven't touched yet. South America, probably just Mexico, but I hear Costa Rica that they're I don't know if they still hold the title, but they were at one time supposed to be the happiest people in the world. They were living in Costa Rica.
Yeah, they might be. I Costa Rica, it's very comfortable for Westerners and it's very pretty. It doesn't have as much culture or sort of the food is not that exotic or interesting. There's a lot of pretty beaches, but not a lot of kind of cultural immersion. So I'm happy I went on this trip with the psychedelic group, but I don't think I'd go there for vacation. Just because I feel like you could go to I don't know. I think there are more culturally enriching places like Brazil
Hmm.
or Colombia or somewhere in Europe that could be more sort of I just love to learn new things, and Costa Rica doesn't have as much of that.
Yeah, I didn't do it for you. And the psychedelic, was it ayahuasca that you were partaking in, or was
We
it
did
just?
we did mushrooms there, and it was a great group. I'm really happy I went with them. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed being with them in that kind of retreat like intensive setting.
Is it microdosing, or you guys going a little bit more than that?
We both microdosed and macrodosed there.
Okay. And the experience, is it, because I've never did mushrooms, but with that, is it, how do you find I know probably every experience is different, but is it pretty intense emotionally? Are you seeing visions? Is it bringing to the surface things from the subconscious that were suppressed, or?
Yeah, I would say all of those. It's sort of it depends on each person and sort of each experience is different. Each person's trip is different. But for me, it was very therapeutic and healing. And I think each psychedelic session I've done has shown me things about myself and helped me kind of heal trauma and sort of go work through get to know myself better. But I think right now I still need it because I think when you're in trauma, you kind of lose touch with who you are and kind of your likes and dislikes and who you are at your core. So I do think I'm not going to be doing psychedelics forever, or certainly not regularly forever. I think self discovery can turn to navel gazing at some point and sort of narcissism. But I think for where I am now, it's definitely needed, and sort of to let go of more trauma and to sort of have a better sense of who I am at my core is really important.
Yeah, this is part of your journey for right now. This is yeah, these are the steps that you're taking. Hey, Alex, this is it's been a pleasure not to hear all the bad that went on in your life, but to hear where you're at now, how you got through it and walked through the fire and still pushing in a better direction, and still hoping for the best and working towards the best. So yeah, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day and sharing something personal with a complete stranger in the hopes that maybe it helps somebody. So I just have one more question that I'd like to ask you. Maybe you mentioned it, but I can't recall it. But how long has it been so far right now that you've been working with psychedelics?
It's been almost exactly 4 years.
Okay, 4 years. All right. Like you said, it's worked wonders for you. That's been the medicine.
Yeah, I mean, not all at once, and there's still some things, but it definitely from where I was before. It's definitely not a magical cure, but over time, it's been really helpful. And I think I'm still working through some stuff, but I think at this time next year, at the 5 year mark, I'm going to be in a really good place.
You're taking steps in the magical direction, and like I said, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. Alex, I'm going to leave the links in the show notes once we publish this show, and people will have access and they'll be able to find your book and purchase it, read it, dive into it, get a bit more in depth with your story, your journey, and your whole healing and recovery process. And it's been great to meet you and to hear more of your story. Like I said, I just had an overview beforehand, but if there's any final words, or anything you'd like to leave off with before we wrap this up, please feel free.
Yeah, I would say I think anyone can heal with these tools. That would be my final words.
That's right. Yes. So there's hope. There's promise.
Absolutely.
Right on. Hey, you have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, man, and all the best to you and the rest of your journey, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Super happy to be here.
I hope you all enjoyed the conversation today with Alex. As unfortunate as it was to hear about what he had to suffer and endure as a child, and to know that the perpetrator, this child molester, there was no consequences for his actions. He's still, for all we know, working as an active faculty member in that same school. But regardless of that, Alex has really made the effort to work on his healing, and that huge component, MDMA, psychedelic therapy in general, has been a powerful ingredient to help him along the way. And Alex, I appreciate your act of courage, your honesty, your vulnerability. I mean, that takes some guts to talk with strangers and share some graphic details about your life that are pretty painful and something that you're still working on and dealing with, but talking about it in the hopes that it can maybe help somebody along the way in their own trying times, and even to shed a light on the treatment of psychedelic therapy and how it helped you, and if it's approached in a safe and a respectful and a cautious manner, how it's been beneficial for not just you, but thousands of others. And maybe this alternative treatment could be a useful tool for somebody else listening right now who may have been on the fence about it, who wasn't too sure about it, who had their fears or their doubts or their worries. Maybe this helped answer a few questions, but ultimately, it's going to be left up to the individual. It's going to be left up to you, the one who is thinking about partaking in something like this, to do your own due diligence before you step forward and introduce any of these plant medicines into your life, because they are a powerful tool to help with healing, to help with a variety of different treatments from depression and anxiety. But they also can be abused, they can be misused, so tread with caution, as you should anything. And let's not forget about the book. Alex talked about his book, Trauma in Ecstasy, How Psychedelics Made My Life Worth Living. And that's going to take you on the whole journey of healing from his sexual abuse and his active search for answers to all of the health issues he was dealing with. I said it during the talk, Alex, with everything that you're dealing with, how something that someone does could have such a long-lasting impact and effect on your life. It could be positive, it could be negative. In this sense, it was a unfortunate situation that had occurred on several occasions. But when I was talking with you, I seen someone who was upbeat. You seemed positive. You had your head on straight. I know you still are dealing with the road to recovery and healing, and that's going to be a lifelong process, but you're taking strides in a better direction. It was inspiring. It was encouraging to hear your attitude and just the resilience that you had to seek out answers, even when the professionals and the doctors and the psychiatrists were telling you one thing that wasn't sitting right. Traditional medicine was failing you, and you decided to go another route with the psychedelic treatment. And that proved to be a big help with your healing process. Alex, once again, thank you for your time, for opening up a page in your story, more than a few pages, and sharing it with us. I wish you all the best. You are, without a doubt, a giant amongst us. And of course, I'd like to give a big shout out to everybody listening to the show. Wherever you're listening from, however you're listening to the show, appreciate each and every one of you. You know where you can find more of Giants Amongst Us. It's at the home base, hometown, giantsamongustus.org. And like I said, there are updates, there's blogs, there's ways to reach out to us. There's all of the social media platforms that we're available at. YouTube, there's a few new YouTube videos that I put up. One where I was sharing a bit of East Germany. I'm living in Germany, originally from California, if anybody isn't too familiar with that situation. And if you wanted to see a little bit of Germany, it's just a calming video, 10 minutes or so of landscapes of the scenery and that cooled down, slowed down, simple life, embracing the outdoors and Mother Earth. Because that is where we have our church. Okay, and let's see, am I forgetting anything? I just appreciate everybody and all of you who have been a part of this so far. I look forward to bringing you more stories. I look forward to connecting with more beautiful and wonderful souls from across and every corner of the globe. This has been a great experience. It's really helped me in my own walk in life and in working from the inside out, because like you all, I'm still a work in progress. So before I wrap this up, you guys be safe out there, be sane, and be kind to a stranger. Also, if you would like to be a part of the show and share your story, or maybe a story of someone in your life that has impacted you in a positive way, you could always reach out to us via email. We'd be happy to connect. Until next time, and very soon, peace.
Looking for a sign to know I'm on the right road. Ain't seen no sign since Jericho.